playing it, just play it. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for you. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Shout out to everyone who is watching us live currently on Facebook and YouTube. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing well on a Feel Good Friday.
Mo, there was a football game on last night. It happened, right?
Yeah, I won't lie. I turned away.
How far did you make it?
When I turned away, Carolina was in control and they had the lead.
Got Things happened after you left.
Apparently.
So last night, the Chicago Bears, and if you're Chicago last night, Mo, it was really a win-win and a lose-lose situation for you because you have Carolina's pick in the first round. So, you beat Carolina and you hurt your pick, but you help their pick, which helps you. You lose to Carolina, you help your pick, and you hurt their pick. So it was the best result for Chicago that it could have been. They keep Carolina for the time being as the first pick in the NFL draft. The win bumps them up currently to about 5th in the draft order, depending on results from this weekend. When they jumping into that 3-win category mode, it kind of puts them in the 5th to 9th range, which isn't nearly as appealing as, 1st and 2nd in the NFL draft. But they're still probably going to end up with 2 top 10 picks. And more importantly, if they end up with the first round draft pick, they have a lot of flexibility depending on what they want to do with Justin Fields. If they want to keep Justin Fields as their quarterback, they're now going to get a ransom for the first round draft pick because basically you're giving a team the right to draft their next franchise quarterback, whether it be Caleb Williams, whether it be May, whoever it is. So, and that a team is going to move heaven and earth for that opportunity because there are 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. They're going to need a franchise quarterback. So if you're Chicago, there's a lot of options on the table if you end up with the number 1 draft pick. Same thing goes with Arizona. Arizona currently has Kyler Murray. If they choose to keep Kyler as their starting quarterback, they're in the same position with the number 1 draft pick. Someone's going to want to come up there and get a franchise quarterback, and they are going to sell the franchise and mortgage everything they can to make that happen. But, Mo, if you look at the game last night, it was about what we expected it to be, in all honesty. It was a sloppy performance. It wasn't a lot of offense. I said 24-21. I gave them too much credit as far as scoring touchdowns go. We didn't get that far. They played like a 1-7 team versus a 2-7 team. It was clunky. There were a lot of mistakes. It didn't look great for the majority of the evening. Neither quarterback really played well, which isn't great when you're considering it's the first round pick in the NFL draft and a backup quarterback. Right. So I would give more props to the Chicago quarterback than I would give to Bryce Young because I shouldn't walk away from this game saying both quarterbacks played about the same when one guy is supposed to be the franchise quarterback for the Carolina Panthers and the other guy, we probably didn't even know who he was coming into the season. He was just Justin Fields' backup.
He was right.
Not much more to say about it. I mean, from what you saw, what were your takeaways from what you saw before you turned away?
It was a dull game. And you know what? It's a weird thing, right? You can a game be competitive and boring at the same time? Because it was that. There were a lot of 3 and outs. You could say great defense, but I like to think mostly bad offense. Like you saw the way that Carolina runs their offense. They play not to lose. When he drops back to pass, Bryce Young, he's throwing medicine balls, 3 yards, 4-yard passes. Like I think Thielen had 7 catches, but averaged 7 yards a catch. Like they weren't really trying to be aggressive or attack. They were just trying not to lose the football game. And that's pretty much when I turned away. Now, granted, I also turned away because I saw a basketball game where Giannis had like 40, and I was like, he might get 50, which he ended up doing. But yeah.
Yeah, Giannis got 54 in a loss last night. But you're right, Mo. It was a lot of medicine balls over the middle. It was a lot of short stuff. It was a lot of dink and dunk. It was a lot of stalled drives. It was a lot of no offensive identity out there. And after the game, and it's interesting because we know that Carolina is not a good team. But when you draft a quarterback number one and he's supposed to be the future of your franchise, there needs to be moments, right? There needs to be moments where you see special. And I don't know if we've seen a lot of those moments with Bryce Young this season. And everyone's maturation process is different. There's not a lot of weapons in Carolina to help him. The offensive line isn't great. We can go on and on. But at the same time, you look around the NFL and you look at different quarterbacks in different situations, and it's almost not fair, but at the same time it is, because he was drafted number one overall. So when you're put in that spot, it's not unfair for me to compare you to Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow's first season in the league, he didn't have an offensive line. His best receiver was Tyler Boyd, I believe, at that point. Maybe he had Chase. No, I don't think he had Chase at that point. But he didn't play well. But you saw moments, right? You saw moments of special.
Right.
Josh Allen's first 2 years in the league, he was more erratic than he is now. And we talk all the time about how inconsistent he is now. But he had 3 or 4 plays a game where you'd be like, oh my God, what did he just do? You saw special with Josh Allen. Look at CJ Stroud and what he's doing down in Houston.
Wow.
I know he's ahead of schedule, but you're seeing a lot of special out of him multiple times a game, and he doesn't have a great offensive line, and he doesn't have a ton of weapons around him on the offensive side of the ball, but you're seeing moments out of CJ Stroud where you're like, this is the guy, we need to build around him. And I'm not saying, Mo, you can't build around Bryce and he can't eventually be that guy, but you're not seeing what you thought you would see from him 10 games into the season.
And you needed to see like that glimmer, right? They weren't supposed to be a great team this season, but you're looking at him as the centerpiece of your future going forward, your franchise quarterback. And I've watched a lot of their games, and I'm still looking for that moment where, even if it's just on a scramble, where he gets past the line of scrimmage, makes somebody miss, because that is part of what drew people into him, that he was athletic, that he was quick, he had wheels. And you don't see that. He doesn't really use his legs. He doesn't really run. He extend plays, but he doesn't look to go downfield and really be aggressive with his legs. And I'm with you. You want to see that glimmer where you go, okay, there's something there. That's what we looked at. That's what we saw when we worked him out. That's why we drafted him. And I don't want to say that too early. But the same way he could turn around and be someone like Jalen Hurts, he could also end up being like Trey Lance.
Mo, no one knows better than the receivers that he plays with, right? The guys that see him in practice every day, the guys that know what was called and what the result of what was called, the guys who know what was coming from the defensive side, what was open, what the cameras missed, what we didn't see as fans. And when the receivers start to chirp and the receivers start to criticize, that's the next step, right? That's the next step where you're like, okay, is he the one? Is he the kid? Because after that game last night, Adam Thielen, who is a vet in this league, who has played with a handful of different quarterbacks, who has seen different quarterbacks come and go. He's been on good offenses. He's been on subpar offenses in Minnesota. He knows what it looks like when you got the guy. He knows what it looks like when you got a decent offense that's humming. And he was pretty outspoken last night after the game, saying it was an embarrassing effort on the offensive side of the ball. And that could mean a lot of things, Mo. That could be the offensive line. That could be the play calling. That could be a lot of things not even directly tied to Bryce Young. But when you're at the point in the season where you haven't seen the offense take baby steps and you haven't seen Bryce Young kind of hit whatever level 2 looks like for him, and now your most productive weapon on the offensive side is starting to make some noise. A guy who doesn't usually make noise, by the way.
He doesn't.
Adam Thielen is not a look at me, listen to what I have to say kind of guy. So when he's coming out after losses, and Mo, let's be honest, this was a game Carolina probably thought they could win. This was a game Carolina probably went into saying, guys, it's Chicago on the other side. Like we can win this game. This is a winnable game for us. And when you play a bad team and your offense is bad, it makes it that much more apparent that your offense is bad. It's different when you go out and you play a team like a Buffalo or, a Seattle or someone that you're not expected to beat, right? And you lose by 20 or you lose by 14 or you lose by 10. And you're like, we hung in there for a little bit. Like we did some things, but we were just outclassed. You don't want to get outclassed by the Chicago Bears. So I think Thielen coming out of last night's game, he might have the realization that we might be worse than I thought we were. And that's also not a good spot to be 10 games into the season with your franchise quarterback who hasn't shown any special yet. And now you have the vets on the offense being like, what are we doing?
And I think Thielen was thinking signing on to play for Carolina. He thought, I'm going to sign on and play with the next young phenom, right? That was his thinking. I'll be part of that. I'll help him develop. I'll be part of that whole process. And it hasn't panned out that way. You look and where we are in the season, usually a team can say, this is what we do well on offense. They don't do anything well on offense. There's nothing that stands out. And I'm not blaming the receiving unit if you say they don't have enough explosive players. But like you said, Thielen's a proven product. He is. Terrific route runner, great veteran presence. You figure that would be Bryce Young's best friend, that kind of guy. And when Thielen starts to talk, he's not a talker, usually keeps his thoughts to himself, definitely doesn't go through the media. But when he goes that route, that means that there's a frustration throughout the locker room. If he's speaking, just think with the other guys who are more vocal wanting to say, like, or are saying in the locker room. So there's a frustration there. I'm sure the QB coaches are looking and thinking, this is not what we were doing in practice. This is not what we want done. They're looking for development. They're looking for strides throughout the season. You can make a case that he looks very much right now what he looked like in week 1. I don't see a huge improvement in him. And I'm not going to kill him. He's a rookie quarterback. And like you said, he could very well turn around. Everybody's development. Some guys can walk right in and they just got it. They do. And other guys, they got to just put in the extra work to get there, like a Jalen Hurts did. Others have done. And maybe that's what Bryce Young has to do. Right now, when I watch him drop back, though, Chris, he looks like a deer in the headlights. I'm not seeing, oh, they're coming at me, I'll attack them. I'm seeing, oh, they're coming at me, I'm going to find a place to lay down.
And Mo, you know what I'm not seeing? I'm not seeing a lot of Miles Sanders. I don't know what he did to fall out of favor in Carolina. I don't know what they thought they were getting in him. I don't know what went wrong with the Miles Sanders experiment over there. And I'm not taking anything away from Chuba Hubbard. He's a nice player in this league. But when you bring in Miles Sanders, and that's supposed to be one of the big weapons on your offense, because let's be honest, there's not many. And he was running two times last night for a -5 yards, and he's catching the ball twice. And he's being outsnapped every which way by Chuba Hubbard, who, by the way, isn't lighting the world on fire. 9 carries, 23 yards for that young man last night, 2.6 a clip. So It's not like he's being outproduced significantly by the other running backs on that team. But for whatever reason, he is not a part of that offensive game plan on a regular basis. And Mo, that's just disappointing, because that should have been a weapon that helped the development of this young quarterback, and they're not getting it from him or their running game in general.
And Sanders is a good running back. It could be literally this simple. That Eagles offensive line is really good.
It is.
It's really good. And their quarterback is a legit RPO threat. right? So that is a difference. He's playing behind an offensive line that more times than not, when he takes a handoff, he's getting hit in the backfield more times than not. So I don't think that Miles Sanders stopped being a good football player. He's in a bad situation. He hasn't produced, but it's hard to produce as a running back when your offensive line is being dominated.
No, 100%. It's tough when your first contact is at 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage.
Right. Why am I being tackled right next to the quarterback?
Right. Why are all my yards after contact?
That's a good point. That's a great line.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break here on Coffee and Sports. When we come back, we are gonna have Key on the show. She's gonna break down some WWE stuff with us. First time we've had a real WWE segment here on the morning show.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll be right back right after this break. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show. Stay here with us. We'll see you on the other side.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. And you just saw Key in the commercial, and now you're seeing Key here live with us. Key, how are you this morning?
What's up, Key?
I'm good. It's an off day for me today, so it's perfect timing.
So you're hanging out with us. I like that.
And talking wrestling.
Let's get right into it. So the big news a few months ago was obviously the release of CM Punk from AEW, and the rumor started immediately. Would he make a WWE return? People were kind of spotlighting what he would do, where he would make the return at. Chicago with Survivor Series was something that was circled. There were a couple other dates that were circled as well, like the Royal Rumble. And then came the news that WWE had an internal discussion with the new heads with their merger, with Vince, with Triple H, and it was decided that it just wasn't worth the headache. And that conversation was framed almost in the sense that Punk came to them willing to come back. Not that they were trying to get him to come back, but that Punk was willing to do business, and they just decided it wasn't in the best interest of business, and then it kind of went away. That was until this past week when things started to fire up again, because out of nowhere, CM Punk's alumni profile is back up on WWE.com. That just doesn't happen for no reason. Out of nowhere, CM Punk is being coy in interviews about what his next step is when it comes to professional wrestling. And then right back where we were a few months ago, we're looking at Survivor Series in Chicago. And now we're getting reports from different outlets that he is coming back. He had a meeting with the board, and that meeting went well, supposedly. And why is CM Punk meeting with the board if he's not already under contract or about to be under contract? That wouldn't happen unless a deal was already happening. So, Key, we got a lot of CM Punk talk coming in to Survivor Series. Are we going to see CM Punk at Survivor Series, in your opinion?
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we did see a shocker. It's just, I miss back when we didn't have these dirt sheets, and you would be surprised when something happened. Now everything is just so predictable. But again, I wouldn't be shocked and surprised if, he had the board meeting and everything went back great. You got the alumni back on the website. That's the only way we like, oh, wait a minute. He wasn't here yesterday when I looked. Wait a minute, he's here now? It's nothing out the ordinary. I wouldn't be shocked if it is in Chicago. Would I be excited? Of course. I'm a fan. So CM Punk's back, that would be very interesting. But knowing how everything went down with him in AEW, AEW is kind of, not saying falling off, but they kind of not how they were in the beginning when they first came out. With this new takeover and Triple H, his head of creative, I think he probably could get some creative ideas for CM Punk together. I mean, CM Punk's a great wrestler. You get on the mic, he can back it up. So, I mean, that crowd would pop a lot in Chicago. So, but what would they do with him there? Are they going to stick him in a match? Or he just going to be there to come out? The question mark is still there. But if I'm WWE, I wouldn't see that as a bad move. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did come out.
And Mo, One of
No,
his
go ahead.
biggest issues in AEW was the background stuff. Backstage, he had multiple fights. He got into it with multiple people. He got into it in front of the cameras with multiple people during those AEW scrums. He was definitely, and I'm not saying it was all his fault. I'm not saying that other people didn't attribute to it, but it happened for whatever reason it took place. And one of the biggest questions with him as far as coming back to WWE, aside from how he left in the first place, let's not forget he sued WWE. He walked out on WWE. So let's not put that completely off the stove right now. We can put that on the back burner. But Mo, just looking at his backstage issues in AEW, you have to wonder, would that be the same in WWE? Or Mo, do you think, and I'm not one to take shots at Tony Khan or anything like that because I don't know him personally, but could it be a situation where they're just different business environments and maybe the AEW environment allows for this sort of stuff to take place? Because we've heard of other wrestlers having backstage issues not related to CM Punk at AEW, and you don't hear as much about that in WWE. Every now and then you'll hear that someone has heat for something they did backstage, but in WWE you're not getting, multiple reports a year where people are getting into it backstage. So Mo, is it possible that part of the struggle CM Punk had in AEW was maybe the environment of AEW just wasn't conducive to him and his personality?
I think that's exactly what the problem is. I don't think AEW, it's a business, but it's not run the way the WWE is. I don't think the way Tony Khan does things is as conducive to being to professionalism, if you will, compared to WWE, where everything is about the business. It's more professional. Even the wrestlers' approach, like it's almost like if you look at WWE, it's like they wear suits all the time, and the guys at AEW are basically wearing sweats all the time. It is a different approach. It's a different environment, and look, and I'm not saying CM Punk is he has clean hands, right? He is a difficult personality to say the least, but an elite talent. I do think that even though he's had problems in the past with WWE, what they do and how they run things, I think is better for him. And if they get into bed again and do business together, he's going to make you money. That's what he's there for. He's a great entertainer, a great wrestler. I have to believe that when he comes back over time, if he comes back, it won't be long before he's competing for a belt. That's what he does. So I just think that Tony Khan kind of runs a looser ship, if you will.
No, 100%. And you hear all the time. I mean, interview that's popping up all over the internet right now is one that was done a couple of years ago by Undertaker. And he was asked about backstage heat between him and CM Punk, because there was a rumor that during their WrestleMania feud that him and Punk didn't get along and there was some tension between them. And Taker completely squashed that. He said that he's never had an issue with CM Punk. He was always good business when they worked together. They're not friends, but as far as the business side of it, they worked together well. They got along well while at work. And working with Punk was good business. And he even talked in the interview about how one thing that Vince taught him early on was when it's good for business, you do business. And when he was approached to work with CM Punk and he was shown how it was going to be good for business, he signed on right away. And the experience was nothing but good business for him. So it's interesting that you have these previous CM Punk interviews popping up now where no one in WWE is really bad-mouthing CM Punk except for Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and CM Punk do not get along. And a few weeks ago, Seth did call him out for that. But again, you have to also wonder how much of that, obviously there is history between them, but is Seth leaning into that because he knows what direction things are going in, and he wants that fresh in people's minds? You don't know.
Seth's a great showman too. He's a great
Correct.
showman too.
Correct. You don't know. So it will definitely be interesting. And then another thing that came up with CM Punk is obviously if he is coming back, it would make sense. Chicago, pay-per-view, Survivor Series. But like Key said, it's hard to surprise wrestling fans in 2023. So maybe WWE does swerve it a little bit. Maybe he comes back on the SmackDown before. Maybe he comes back on the Raw after. Maybe they keep it close to the Survivor Series time frame, but they hold it off from Survivor Series to kind of have an element of surprise that they wouldn't necessarily have at the show itself. But we'll see. This is all unfolding in the next handful of weeks. But the second thing I want to talk about, Key, while you were here, and it's easily the hottest topic in professional wrestling, and it's a topic that's been going on for years now, and it's heating up again because Roman Reigns, our tribal chief, I say he's getting close, because if you look at it, it does look close, but when you break it down, it's not quite that close yet. But he's getting close to Hulk Hogan's number for days as champion. Hogan's number is in the low 1400s. Reigns is currently in the high 1100s. If you just look at those two numbers, like, oh, that's pretty close. It's actually about a year away. He's got about 300 plus days before he gets to that. So it's actually not as close as we think it is. But it just feels like this is the next step for Roman Reigns. He's progressing towards breaking Hogan's record for most days consecutively as the champion. And of course, as he approaches Hogan, it's almost like the Michael Jordan thing in basketball. People who love Jordan are going to revere him no matter what. And it doesn't matter who you put in front of Jordan, they're going to stick to Michael Jordan as being the greatest ever. In professional wrestling, a lot of people feel that way about Hulk Hogan. I mean, really? I know that's how I'm not a Hogan guy, Mo. I'm not a Hogan guy.
Me neither.
I never was a Hogan fan.
Okay, good. We're all on the same because
I'm not a Hogan guy. My uncle, he's about 15 or 20 years older than I am. He took me to a SmackDown years and years ago, and Hogan made a surprise appearance. He wasn't supposed to be there. The whole pop and circumstance. I'm like 15. Like I literally couldn't care less. Like I don't like Hulk Hogan. But this grown man, he's crying, and grown men around us are crying because of Hulk Hogan. And like I get it. Like it's great to see someone elicit that reaction out of you. But for me in that moment, I'm just like, Hulk Hogan sucked. What are we doing here? Like, why? And as I've gotten older, like I respect the impact that Hogan has had on the business of professional wrestling, but I'm just not a Hulk Hogan guy. But those who are will defend Hogan to the end of the earth. So now as Reigns is approaching that Hulk Hogan mark, what are we seeing? We're seeing people come out to defend Hogan's time as champion compared to Reigns' time as champion. And Key, the biggest number we're seeing right now is title defenses. Mm-hmm. When Hogan finished his run, 1,400 and whatever days it was, he had 468 title defenses. Reigns is approaching 1,200 days as champion, and he has 58 title defenses. For me, Key, I look at this and I say, one, who the hell cares? But I also look at this and say, who was Hogan defending his goddamn belt against? Because 468 title defenses is basically a title defense every 3.5 days. That means he's defending his belt twice a week. Who is he defending the belt against twice a week to where we actually care? I would argue, Key, that 468 title defenses, you're just defending the belt for the sake of defending the belt at that point. You're defending the belt literally against Jimmy John out there in Atlanta, Georgia, the local hero, and everyone's cheering for Jimmy John, but everyone knows Hulk Hogan's not losing to Jimmy John. Like, I feel like that's what you're, and I know Hogan fans are going to argue he had great defenses in those 468. I'm not going to take that away from him, but 3.5 a week. I mean, 3.5 every 3.5 days, twice a week. I don't even think it compares. What do you think?
Well, for one, different era back then. You were fighting champion and expected you to defend it. Now, Roman doesn't have to defend the title every pay-per-view. He doesn't have to be on every show. So that's the difference there. So yeah, 58 days, 58 title defenses. Okay. Roman's entitled to a break. So after WrestleMania? After that WrestleMania, yeah, he was on less shows because now he's starting to. I think he wants to transition into acting. There's word that the leukemia, not saying it's coming back, but he did have the leukemia also, so he wants to not wrestle so much. But Roman Reigns, ever since he turned heel, as much as I hate to say it, Roman Reigns is the best champion the WWE's ever had so far right now. In the whole bloodline situation, Roman Reigns is the best champion. You love him or hate him, like it how it is. He doesn't win clean. Point blank period. He is WWE's number one guy. He has the belt. And he got Paul Heyman in his corner, another guy that can talk on the mic. Roman,
one of the goats on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Roman's gotten better with the mic, so pairing them two together, it's destiny. So we wanted this heel turn for Roman because he was with the Shield and he really didn't say much, and then he was the big dog, and then once that happened, they said, "All right, Roman, we need you to turn heel now." That was the best thing they could ever did. But the Shield broke up. So now Roman's this guy. Acknowledge me. So yeah, Roman Reigns is the company. Is it time for him to lose the title? Of course it is. And that's going to happen here in Philly in WrestleMania 40. But so after that, what happens, we don't know. But Roman is not making it out of Philly without being champ. He's going to lose it.
You think he is, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know. We'll see, Mo. Bubba Ray Dudley, he does a great show, Busted Open Radio. And he was talking about this. He was talking about Roman Reigns and how WWE uses him. And he made a really great point. His point about the usage of Roman Reigns was twofold. He said, one, the less he is there, when he is there, it feels more important. The shows feel more important. The people he's interacting with feels more important. He elevates everything around him. Just by being on TV now, he brings the big fight feel. He does essentially what Lesnar did initially when Lesnar wasn't a full-time wrestler. Obviously, the Lesnar stuff got a little more watered down because he didn't have a belt on him. He did at times, but when he didn't have a belt on him, it was kind of the same old song and dance. So it's a different layer with Roman. And the other thing that Bubba pointed out was that by doing this with Roman and showcasing him as WWE is, you're making people hate him more, which means whoever they put over Roman, they're going to love that much more. Right. Because the more you can make someone hate Roman Reigns and his entire existence, it's going to be that much bigger of a payoff when someone finally beats him. And that's not even taking into consideration 1,000+ days, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, however many we are when the belt finally comes off of him. And Mo, I thought those were great points by Bubba Ray because we're 3 years into this thing. There's no need to rush it to the finish now just because you have fans who are like, we're tired of it. Clearly you're not, because you're still tuning into the shows. The attendance isn't down. The buy rates are not down. The viewership isn't down. So clearly and this all spikes when Roman's on. So, and the other thing that Bubba pointed out that I thought was funny, I'm also not an LA Knight guy. I can't stand the guy. But there was
Chris, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't get LA Knight.
I
think it's stupid. I don't get the thing.
Roman Reigns said something to him the last time they were going back and forth, and he was spot on. He is a watered down version of The Rock, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
For sure. But there was this ground, and I get it. LA Knight's doing his thing. He has the fan support, so I get that. If you're over, you're over. And there was this whole ground support for him to win the title at Crown Jewel. And if you don't listen to Bubba Ray on Busted Open Radio, you need to. It's such a great listen. But he essentially was like, two things. One, Crown Jewel is a glorified house show. It is literally a glorified house show to appease the Saudi regime and to show them the wrestlers that they love and want to see because they're paying millions of dollars to host the show. So, of course, if they love LA Knight and that's the guy they want to go for the belt, that's why it was booked that way. Essentially, the Saudis booked the show. They're seeing the people that they want to see. So that's why the show is booked the way the show is booked. But Bubba's point was it's a glorified house show. Roman's not going to lose the belt at a glorified house show. It doesn't matter who he's defending it against. So Bubba's take was, if you honestly thought as a wrestling fan there was any chance he was going to drop the belt to LA Knight at Crown Jewel, you're not paying attention, because that's not the spot Roman's going to lose the belt. He's going to lose it at a WrestleMania. Whether it be this year's WrestleMania or the WrestleMania after that, that's where it's going to be. So if he was fighting LA Knight at WrestleMania and he lost and you want to be upset, sure, be upset, because that was a legitimate spot for the belt to drop.
I'm going to be upset.
He's not dropping it at Crown Jewel, Mo.
Yeah, I'm going to be upset if he loses to LA Knight.
Right.
That's what I'm going to be upset about. Don't lose to that guy. Give me somebody better. You know what I don't get? You brought it up. What's with the stuff? What is it?
So LA Knight's character is he's in between The Rock and Stone Cold. And you know, back in the 90s, has the best, everything like that. So that's kind of what LA Knight is, in my opinion, you know, the mixture between the two. But the crowd loves him. He's 99 million times over. So
He is.
I don't get it.
But Keith, the last question before we let you get out of here, where does LA Knight go from here? Because obviously the entire build, and WWE ignored it for a little bit, and then they finally embraced it, and the build led to the match with Roman. We knew he wasn't going to win the match with Roman. So where do we go from here? Because is it Gunther and the IC title? Is it Logan Paul, the new United States champion? Do they get him into a tag team? Is it a belt at all? Because to your point, he is so over, and you don't want to lose that momentum, but it almost feels like we hit the peak with him, and now it could be a steep drop-off, because we've seen it before with guys. They build up a little bit, they fight Roman, and they just can't sustain the push once the fans realize they're not going to get the belt. So what do you see from LA Knight over the next few months heading into the Royal Rumble and then into WrestleMania season?
Well, first I knew LA Knight wasn't going to win with Roman. It's Crown Jewel. Roman's not.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you for feeling that way.
But they should have had. In my opinion, they should have had some type of stupid finish to where Roman gets disqualified and not have LA Knight get pinned. In my opinion, because he's so over, he shouldn't have got pinned. But anyway, I think a U.S. title belt would be great for him since he's on SmackDown. You know, Logan Paul has that right now. I'm not sure if he's going to get a rematch with Ray or not, but Logan Paul would be the ideal person for him to fight. I can see him with the U.S. If he was on Raw, I can say an Intercontinental, but he's not on Raw. He's on SmackDown, so U.S. title's on SmackDown, so that would be the belt that LA Knight gets.
Speaking of Logan Paul,
I think eventually he will be a champion someday, just not now.
Speaking of Logan Paul, he did a photo shoot with the United States Championship this week. He was photoed in various living situations, sleeping next to his female partner. He was cuddling the U.S. title. He was showering, wearing only the U.S. title. It was basically just Logan and his life with his U.S. title. So that was fun. It gave me vibes of what the Hawks released yesterday with their OnlyFans video on X. So little cringy, a little interesting, but definitely something people are talking about. And people are definitely talking about this segment here on Coffee and Sports every Friday. It was a pleasure to have you, and we're excited to have you next week.
Yes, sir. A pleasure to have me. Thank you, guys. I'll be back next week for some more stuff.
Appreciate you.
Awesome having Key here on the show. Mo, we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, we are going to get into week 10 of the NFL season. We got lots of games to break down, lots of predictions to make, and we're going to do that right on the other side of this break.
What's up, everybody? It's Control Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to the games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. And Mo, we got the final game of the international series taking place this weekend. 9:30 a.m. football. We love it. We do indeed love it. It is the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. Rumors have surfaced this week, Mo, that if the Patriots lose to the Colts in Germany, it could force a coaching change within the Patriots organization. I don't understand where these rumors are coming from because we also just found out that Belichick signed an extension. So I don't know what that extension necessarily says as far as maybe it's just working with the organization. I have no idea. But regardless, I do think the Patriots are going to lose this game. I'm taking the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts as well. I'm looking at Minshew. Jonathan Taylor looked like he's finally got his legs up under him. The defense is playing better. The offensive line has come together. I just think the Colts are just a better football team. And look, I would be so stunned. Nobody would be more stunned than me and Bill Belichick got fired.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know why those things are popping up. I've seen 3 or 4 reports that it might not go well for Bill if they lose over in Germany. Not sure why that matters. Not sure why the Colts in Germany would be the turning point for this thing.
Why is that the make or break?
Right, but apparently that's going to be the situation. The 5-3 Niners are playing the 6-2 Jaguars. This could be one of the games of the week. The Niners are coming off of their bye week. They've lost 2 in a row. The Jaguars are in control of the AFC South. This is a game, Mo, where the Niners need to get back on track. They have the addition on defense from the trade deadline. I'm going to go Niners here only because I think that Jacksonville is hit or miss when it comes to these big game situations. And I think they're about 50-50. It's not a Dolphin situation where they just don't beat good teams. But I think they're about 50-50, and I think they're going to lose this one.
I think this is going to be a competitive football game. I do like the Niners to win, but I think the Jaguars are coming into this game thinking it's a big game for them. They would like to be able to beat a football team like the Niners. For the Niners, and I know this seems to be a little over the top, I think this is a must win. I really do. If the Niners go 5-4, then we have to actually have a real conversation about will they make the playoffs? So I think this is a must win for them. So I think they're going to get after sunshine. They'll slow down that offense. And if they get the addition of Debo that gives Purdy another weapon, I think you're going to get a better version of Purdy. I think the run game will be effective. So I think the Niners win.
What could be the game of the week is the 5-3 Browns and the 7-2 Ravens. I know the Ravens are a big favorite here, Mo, but I'm going to go Browns. I don't like Lamar's track record against the Cleveland Browns. For whatever reason, and this is a matchup league, for whatever reason, he has struggled against the Cleveland Browns, and this is a great defense this season. And it's one of those things where they're coming off that huge win against Seattle. That was supposed to be a good game. That was supposed to be a measuring stick game for both teams, and the Ravens blew them out of the water. So I think coming off of that big emotional high, coming into a big division game, I think you're going to see a little bit of a letdown from the Ravens. And I think it's going to be more about the defense forcing Lamar into mistakes than it is going to be about the effectiveness of the Cleveland offense. But I do think that with the Cleveland running game, and I don't know if Deshaun's playing or not, but his backups have done an admirable job because they are 5-3. I think in an upset, I'm going Cleveland.
I wanted to initially pick Cleveland mostly because of the defense and Myles Garrett. Because right now, to me, I think Myles Garrett is the defensive player of the year. I mean, he is a monster. But I think that I've underrated the Ravens to a degree. And you're right. Coming off a dominant performance like they did against the Seattle Seahawks, I think you could easily have a letdown but it is a division opponent, and it does matter because I do think they want to continue and get more separation in the division and get a complete stranglehold over it because they feel the Bengals coming. So I think Lamar will find a way. I think he'll do just enough. Maybe he won't have his best game statistically, but I think the offense will do just enough because, look, you're right. The Cleveland backups have been very adequate. You can argue that the young man, I can't remember his name, that was filling in, I think it's Jackson, has actually been better than Deshaun Watson. You can make that case. Numbers-wise, I'm pretty sure they're similar or he's better. So I think in the end, I think the Ravens defense will force a couple of turnovers from Cleveland, and I think they pull it out.
Packers and Steelers. I'm going Steelers here. I just don't trust Jordan Love anymore. The Steelers have a good defense. It won't be a high-scoring game, but give me Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in that defense. I think that the only thing Pickens and the offense have to do is not turn the football over, and they're going to win the football game.
100%. Saints and Vikings. I am on the Joshua Dobbs train until the train goes off the track.
Woo!
I know the Saints have a good defense. I'm not taking anything away from the Saints here. This is 100% about Dobbs and the Vikings. They're 5-4. They're back in the playoff picture. I'm going Vikings.
Joshua Dobbs, the ultimate gamer. The ultimate gamer. Now you're getting him on a week where he knows his teammates' names.
Right. He can actually prepare for the game.
Right. Right. That could be a problem for you. I'm going to go with Joshua Dobbs because I'm just writing that story. I think it's an amazing story. So I'm riding with the Vikings. Like you said, they've climbed their way back into the playoff picture. I'm going with the Vikings.
The feel-good story of the Houston Texans is going to hit a speed bump this week. They have a chance to get over 500, but they're playing Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And I know that Chase is having some injury issues. I know that Higgins is having a hamstring. It doesn't matter. Joe Burrow is back. He is going to find a way to win this game. He is not going to lose to the Houston Texans no matter how great they're playing. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think we're going to – and don't forget that Bengals defense is playing better too. I think we're going to see CJ – he hasn't turned the ball over much this year. I think he only has one pick. I think we're going to see a CJ Stroud interception or two. I think there's going to be some moments late in the game that he just isn't quite ready for yet, and I think the Bengals win a close one.
I think CJ Stroud will play well. I think Joe Burrow will play better. And I think you're right. CJ Stroud will probably turn the ball over once, and that'll be the difference in the game. I think the Bengals are on a mission. I think Cincinnati pulls it out.
Titans and the Buccaneers, 2, 3, and 5 teams, two disappointing teams this season. I think they're both trending in different directions. I think Tennessee's on the uptick because of Will Levis. I think the Buccaneers are on the downtick because after that hot start, they've lost 4 in a row. So I'm going to go Tennessee here.
I think Tennessee has their quarterback of the future right now in Will Levis. And it's interesting because the Buccaneers aren't bad because of Baker Mayfield. He's been great. He really has. I think if anything, Baker has made a strong case that he should be their starting quarterback going into next season. Having said that, though, the defense is slidden. They were really stout early in the year, not so much now. So I'm going to go with Tennessee because I really think Will Levis. I think Will Levis is their quarterback of the future, right? Or actually, their quarterback of right now.
Atlanta Falcons and Arizona Cardinals. I'm riding the Kyler train. I think we're going to see Kyler wouldn't be back if he wasn't healthy. So I think he's 100%. I think we're going to see some explosiveness out of Kyler Murray. I think we're going to see things that the Falcons could not prepare for on tape because Kyler hasn't played in about a year and he hasn't played with this current group. I think we're going to see some hero ball from Kyler Murray, and I think that it's going to work just because it's his first game back and it's going to be wrinkles that Atlanta wasn't expecting. Atlanta has a weapon they don't like to use in Bijan Robinson. So
What is that all about?
I think we're going to keep seeing him play the sidelines. He was mic'd up last week. For what? Why do we mic him up? To watch him stand on the sideline?
Right.
It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm going Arizona.
I was going to lean towards Arizona, but you know what? I think that Kyler Murray, I think he is healthy. I don't disagree with that, but I think he will be rusty. So I don't doubt that there will be moments where he's special on them off-time plays, but Atlanta's a wonky team. Every time you pick against them, they find a way to win. So I'm going to take the Falcons in a slight upset.
Lions and Chargers. I don't know. The Chargers were beat down a little bit ago by the Ravens. I mean, the Lions were beat down a little bit ago by the Ravens. The Chargers, week to week, they look good. They don't look good. They win 2, they lose 2, they win 2, they lose 2. Technically, they're in line to lose 2 now. I'm going to go with a little bit of an upset here. I'm going to go Chargers.
It's a big game for the Lions because there was so much expectations for them coming into the season, and they seem to be taking a slight slide. I'm going to trust in Jared Goff and says he rights the ship. I think the Lions win a close game.
Commanders and Seahawks. I think the Seahawks bounce back from the whooping that was put on them and handle the Commanders. The Commanders, they're giving up pieces on defense. They're waving the white flag. Seahawks, I think, pull away pretty easily in this game.
I think Seattle needs this game, especially if that beatdown they took. I expect you're going to see a better version of Geno. I think the defense will be a lot more stout. And like you said, the Commanders seem to be in the fire sale mode. So they're looking to get better draft picks for next season. So I'm going with Seattle as well.
Giants and Cowboys. Giants should lose this game by easily 20 points. I don't have any faith in their quarterback. I don't even think they're going to be able to throw the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball because I think the Cowboys are going to be up by a couple of scores midway through the first quarter or midway through the second quarter. So from that point on, they're going to be forced to throw the ball. And I don't think they're going to be able to. I think we're going to see defensive touchdowns. I think we're going to see short fields all night. I think it's going to be an absolute rout. Dallas is currently a 17-point favorite. I think they win by 20.
If the Giants want to be competitive in this football game, they're going to do something very old school. It will be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think Saquon Barkley will carry the ball between 35 and 40 times, which isn't good for him in the longer run. But I think that's going to happen because they're not going to let DeVito drop back and throw the ball 15 times. Not even 15 times. So Saquon's going to get a big workload, and that's just to try to be competitive. But like you said, in the end, I think Dallas wins going away.
And then Sunday night, we have the Jets and the Raiders. I love the Jets defense. I don't love Zach Wilson. I think the Raiders find a way to pull this game out.
You're going Raiders.
I'm going Raiders. Whether it be because it's not because it's going to be because of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is not going to do enough to win this game. And as a result, the Raiders are going to win it.
I think there's a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson. There was more before, right? You know what you have on defense. You actually know what you have in Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. You've got some special talent. And sooner or later, that pressure gets to you. I don't doubt that he's trying his very best. I don't doubt that from one moment. But I'm with you. I think in the end, Zach's going to have a couple of turnovers. The special teams, for them to win, literally, their defense has to pitch a shutout. Their special teams got to score, or their defense got to score, and they have to get up that way. That's not something that happens week to week in the NFL. I think the Raiders will win this football game.
Mo, pleasure as always. We appreciate everyone for joining us this morning. Close us out, sir.
Hey, thanks to everybody for listening to us. Thanks for everybody that's going to be checking us out later. Check out all the great content we have on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
We'll be back next week on Monday morning, breaking down everything that happened over the NFL weekend. We'll see you then. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show. We'll be back next week.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about the team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any